So in lesson 8.3.1, we're going to review what we learned in 7th grade. We're going to start talking about how things change proportionally. And I don't know, you should remember that if looking at a graph, a proportional graph always starts at the set at 0, 0. Let me get my line here. Always starts at 0, 0. And will continue all the way up, and it's always a straight line. So a proportional graph will always look something like this. So in this first lesson, away from the review, what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, so we're going to start talking about a hare and a tortoise. We've all heard this story about how the tortoise slow and steady wins the race. Well, we're going to talk in this lesson plan. I want you to notice the difference. What I have is I'm going to talk about a plant, how quickly it grows, and to what extent. But I want you to see something, and I want you to notice the difference. So when I start with a plant, the first thing I'm going to do is I know that I have to plant my seed. So on day 1, at point 0, it hasn't grown at all. So we know that's the case. So after the first week, it may have grown half an inch. After the second week, it may have grown 2 inches. After the third week, it would be 3.5 inches. After the fourth week, it would be 4 inches. After the five weeks, it would be 2.5 inches. And notice when I say that, if you look straight across, after 5 weeks, I've grown 2 inches. After 10 weeks, I will have grown 5 inches. So what does that all mean? Well, what that means, simply put, is if I'm looking to write an equation, first thing I want to do is I want to think about my rise over my run. So I can start at any point where it's a pretty point, go up to the line that the next point's on, and go all the way over, creating my right triangle. And now we previously learned that slope, which is the angle of this line, is the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's, or rise over run. And we simply put, we can go like this. My slope, let me count it first. My slope, I'm going to get my pencil. It's even better. I'm going to use my pencil because I like to use the pencil. My slope is 1, 2, 3, 4, is up 4. And notice how I'm writing this. And over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 4 over 8. That's my slope. Well, reducing that just means watch. That must mean that someplace in between, if I reduce that by 2's, there must be another point in between. So I could start here, go up to here, and notice straight across here is another pretty point. Then it would be 2 up 2 over 4. I can still reduce that again. I could go up here and over to this point right here. So my slope actually is 1 over 2. So let's think about if we were to write an equation of a line, and we talked about this last year. We didn't, but you did. That the constant of proportionality is the rate the rate the line changes. The rate the line changes is it's changing up 1 and over 2. So my equation is going to look like this. Y equals 1 over 2x. Notice there's no numbers here at the end. What I want you to realize is that point right there could actually be written there. That's the place it starts on the y-axis. Now, ignore that for now, but I just want you to see that that's a possibility. So now I'm going to undo that and that and that. And so now I have my equation written for my line. I have a y equals 1/2 x. Well, let's go back and let's do some other things. Let's compare a couple of plants. We got one plant that grows at 1 inch every 2 weeks. And let's create another plant that's maybe a little bit faster growing. Let's say this next plant grows at 1 inch every week. So that means I'm going to go in 1 week, I go 1 inch. 2 weeks, I go 2 inches. 3 weeks, I go 3 inches. 4 weeks, I go 4 inches, and so on and so forth. Well, now we need to write an equation for this line. Well, if we remember, this one was y equals 1/2 x. This one, though, my rise over my run, up 1 over 1. So my equation looks like this. My constant of proportionality is 1 over 1, up 1 over 1, and then x. This means that every week, x represents the number of weeks, y represents how tall it grows, but every week, that plant is going to grow 1 inch for every week. This plant grows 1 inch for every 2 weeks. But the key here is I want you to notice this part right here. The growth in the inches and the times in the weeks. And think about this one statement. Which one of these determines the other? Does the amount the plant grows in inches determine how many weeks it's been growing? Or does the time determine how fast it's growing? Okay, so, and then kind of look at the next graph with the turtle and the rabbit and see if there's any difference in the way they're labeled.